What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of Zero Questions, Zero Answers. Welcome everyone to the Q&A show. And guys, I'm super excited about this episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. As a reminder, everyone, of our scheduled daily programming here on the YouTube channel, you all can expect on Mondays the Gears Cast, which is the Gears of War podcast. On Tuesdays, The Resistance comes out, which is the Watch Dogs podcast. On Wednesdays is Zero Dark, which is the Call of Duty podcast. On Thursdays is The Last Cast, which is the Last of Us podcast. And Fridays is For the Swarm, which is the StarCraft podcast, with Saturday being the 8 Below show, and Sunday, of course, being Zero Questions, Zero Answers, which is the Q&A show. So that's our scheduled programming, guys. I know a lot of you have been giving me tons of feedback on it. I really appreciate all the support we've been getting on it. But here we go, guys, with episode number 2 of Zero Questions, Zero Answers. With the NBA regular season coming to a close, and then, of course, guys, now the playoffs are officially underway at this point in time. But I wanted to go ahead and give you guys my playoff predictions for the NBA. One of the questions I got was, who is winning the NBA Finals? And I got a number of people asking me that on Facebook as well as on Twitter. And so I thought I would go through my NBA playoff predictions based on the bracket, guys, as it stands, which is, of course, the finalized bracket. But with that, I want to start, guys. I'll go ahead and give you who I believe is going to win each of the series, and then I'll kind of give you where, what I think the series, as far as from a perspective of who wins and then by how many games and how many games the series goes. I'll give you guys all of those things here now. So we'll start with the Western Conference. So you got the Lakers and the Portland Trail Blazers. Portland's been on an absolute tear as of late, guys. But I gotta say that I believe that the Lakers will pull it out against Portland. I think Portland, even though they've had an incredible run, I think that, they have had to give everything just to make the playoffs in the first place. But I do think they're going to give the Lakers a hard time at points throughout the course of the series. I believe the Lakers will advance 4-2 against the Trailblazers. And then between the Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder, I got to say, Houston losing Russell Westbrook for a period of time is going to be really tough for them. I actually see this series, what I believed was actually going to be a really quick series. Now I think it's going to be a very long series. I do believe the Houston Rockets will pull it out and win that one 4-3. And so that'll be a Game 7, I believe. And then, of course, between Denver and Utah, I do have Denver winning this one, guys. It's not going to be a gentleman's sweep because I think Utah still, they definitely have a lot of fire in them. And so I do believe, though, that Denver is going to advance to the semifinal. And I think they're going to win that series 4-2. But as I said, guys, with any of these series, it could really go any way. There's no home court advantage, which makes the bubble very interesting, of course, down in Florida. And then lastly, guys, in the Western Conference, you've got the Los Angeles Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I do believe that Dallas is going to be a great team down the road. I just don't know if it's going to be this year necessarily, especially going up against the Clippers. Even though the Clippers haven't played together as a team for very many games because they've had, a lot of the players have missed time and things of that nature, but I still think that they are going to be a very tough team to beat down the stretch. I do have them beating Dallas 4-2 and moving to the semifinals against Denver. Now, on the opposite side, guys, in the Eastern Conference, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks and the Orlando Magic. I gotta say, guys, that even though Milwaukee has not been playing incredibly well as of late, I do have them actually sweeping the Magic. I do not see any chance Orlando is going to even get a single game. I mean, if they get one game, it'll be a gentleman's sweep 4-1, but I will say that Milwaukee beats Orlando 4-0. Then we get to Indiana and Miami, which is a very interesting series to say the least, and I think this is one that's going to go the stretch. I actually have Miami pulling this one out with the upset. I've got them winning this one 4-3, though, guys. Got this going to a Game 7. I think it's going to be very, very close, and it's going to come down to the wire with a lot of those games. Boston and Philadelphia. Philadelphia took a real blow, guys, by losing Ben Simmons, which could be for the rest of the year. I do think Philadelphia is going to present some problems for Boston, but I do think Boston is going to move on. They could actually gentleman sweep Philadelphia. I'm going to say it's 4-2, though. Boston moves on. Toronto and Brooklyn is the last one, guys, and Brooklyn has really shown that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with moving forward in the future. Of course, when you get Kevin Durant as well as Kyrie Irving there, they are going to be a force, and there is no debate about it. But I do have Toronto beating them, guys. I just don't think Brooklyn is going to give that much of a tough time for Toronto. I will say Brooklyn will get one game, but I do think they'll get gentlemen swept 4-1 against Toronto. So now, guys, we've got in the semifinals, the Western Conference semifinals, we've got the Lakers and the Rockets. Now, I'm assuming that Russell Westbrook will be back with the Rockets during this series or throughout the course of it. Maybe he'll even be back for the OKC series as well. But what I'm going to say is this. This is going to be a really tough one, in my opinion. Now, if Russell Westbrook's back, it's going to be, I believe, a long battle between these two teams. I do have the Lakers winning, though. And the reason is, guys, is because of LeBron. I mean, I just don't see, when it comes to playoff LeBron and what we've seen him do year after year in the Eastern Conference, like against these teams, he's just a different animal going up against teams in the Eastern Conference, which we obviously know the Western Conference is much, very stacked compared to that of the Eastern Conference. But nonetheless, guys, I just don't see the firepower of the Lakers. The Rockets will have no answer for Anthony Davis, no answer for LeBron. Even though the Lakers don't have a lot, of answers necessarily for Russ and James Harden, I just believe that they are going, in a long drawn-out series, the Lakers are going to win this one. I will say this, I think that the Lakers will probably win this one 4-3 or 4-2. It's hard to say, guys. A lot of it depends on if Russ is there or not. I'm going to go and say that this is going to go 7 games. I think it'll go 7 games if Russ is there. If he's not, I think it'll be 4-2. The Lakers will advance to the conference finals, in my personal opinion. And then, of course, you've got the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Nuggets are actually a surprise, a surprising team to me in a number of ways. I think that they do have a good amount of firepower. But at the end of the day, guys, I believe the Clippers are going to pull this one out. I just think that they're so deep as a team that I just don't think Denver's going to have enough answers for, Kawhi and Paul George. And then, of course, the bench players like Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. It's going to be very difficult. I'm going to say that the Clippers, even though this is another series that could go 7 games, I'm going to say it's going to go 6. I believe that the Los Angeles Clippers will win 4-2 in advance to the conference finals. On the other side, guys, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. And what I believe is Milwaukee, even though Milwaukee, might have kind of stumbled a little bit during this bubble up to that point, and they would have, in my opinion, swept the Orlando Magic. So I think they're going to be on a roll. I'm going to say that Miami is going to take 1 to 2 games. I think that they do have some, some experience there. Miami is still kind of building something. Got Iggy, obviously Jimmy Buckets. I think they've got a decent team there. I don't think that they're going to be able to go the long stretch against Milwaukee. I'm going to say Milwaukee wins this one 4-2. Very well could be a gentleman's sweep, though, 4-1. I'm going to say 4-2, though, Milwaukee advances. Then you've got Boston and Toronto. This one is going to be a battle, a real battle in my opinion, guys. Toronto's got the experience being the defending champions. Boston's still young, but they're getting better. And look, this one could go either way, in my opinion. It's going to go to a Game 7, I believe. And I'm actually going to go with Boston here. I think Boston is ready to take the step after they, of course, over the course of these past number of years, guys, they got beat at certain times. Toronto, they lost to last year. The year before that, I believe it was the Cavs that they lost to, and LeBron took them 7 games basically by himself winning. They're learning a lot, though, as they can begin that playoff experience. Guys like Tatum, this is a team that's primed, I think, and ready to make a run. And I think that they will beat Toronto in 7 games. So I'm saying 4-3 Boston. So now we've got the Lakers and the Clippers, the Battle of LA, which everybody wants to see, right? I think we can all agree, the Battle of LA is what everyone wants to see. And I think that this is going to come down to the absolute end, guys. I mean, it is, I personally believe whoever wins the conference finals, is going to win it all. And I got to say, look, The Clippers definitely are deeper, but they don't got LeBron. And they don't have a guy named Anthony Davis, which I don't believe the Clippers have any answer for Anthony Davis. And we've seen that now over the course of the time that they've been playing each other. And playoff LeBron is unlike anything we've ever seen, like I said. I do have it going 7 games because I think a lot of these games, or probably all of them, will come right down to the wire. And I just think that the Clippers are certainly going to win a few of those, and the Lakers will win some of those. But I do have, in Game 7, you like put everything on the line. I've got the Lakers winning 4-3, and they move on to the NBA Finals. Now, the conference finals for the Eastern side, we got Milwaukee and Boston. Kind of like a rematch of last year, which obviously Giannis is going to want to kind of get his revenge against Boston. And I believe it was one of the biggest superstar meltdowns I've ever seen, guys. Giannis did not show up, in my opinion, in that series last year against Boston. And so he's definitely going to show up. But I've got Boston moving on, guys. And I think it's another one that's going to go to the very end. I believe that this is going to be a 7-game series once again, which I'm really excited about. But I do think Boston will pull it out once again. I just think that Boston, even though Milwaukee's got a great team, Boston does not have an answer for Giannis. But I just think that they're just deeper as a team. Boston, I think, there's a lot more that they can throw at, Milwaukee, and they've got, in my opinion, they got some better shooters. And so I believe Boston will pull this one out. We're going to get a classic matchup, one of the classic matchups in all of basketball, being the LA Lakers and the Boston Celtics. And look, at the end of the day, guys, it could go either way as well, but I just don't believe Boston is ready yet. They're not that team yet. Maybe down the road they will be. Like, they're kind of like the Dallas Mavericks. I think the Mavericks are going to be a contender in a year or two. Boston is certainly a contender this year. I just don't know if they're going to be able to make that step against the Lakers. But I do think it's going to go about 6 games. I think the Lakers will win the NBA Finals 4-2, in my opinion. It could easily go 6 games, or I believe 7. It could go 7 games. But I just think that there's no answers for, like I was saying with Boston and Milwaukee, they have no answer for Giannis, but there's no answer for Boston when it comes to LeBron and Anthony Davis. And so I can't see it happening unless, the superstars don't show up or something. It could definitely go to become a longer series. But I think LA is going to triumph over everyone this year. And I got LeBron, man. I'm not going to bet against him. That's my prediction. The Lakers win 4-2 against the Boston Celtics. Let me know, guys, what do you all think? What are your predictions for the NBA Finals and just the bracket in general? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below, and let's have a real conversation about it. A question I've gotten quite a bit over the couple of years, actually, that I have been doing this YouTube channel. I'm creating content on this YouTube channel, guys, since July of 2018. So I've been doing this now for a couple of years now, and I've gotten the question a number of times, where did you get the name Zero? And I keep on getting that question. I got one asked to me, of course, here on YouTube. I've had it on Twitch before, and so I thought I would answer it here in this video, because it's another way, guys, that we can kind of connect. That's what Zero Questions, Zero Answers is all about, guys. This Q&A show is about you guys asking questions, and I answer those things, and, try to give you guys some more insight, more ways that we can kind of connect and have real conversation about. So how did I get the name Zero? Well, guys, back, in the Black Ops 2, the, MW2 days of Call of Duty, I used to trick shot and snipe with my brother, and we used to have, it was a great time, right? Modern Warfare 2, some of the best memories I've ever had. Black Ops 2 kind of elevated even more so, in my opinion. But during that time, my name was Grav, as in gravity. And so my name back then was Grav, and then I was Grav for a number, I would believe like a couple of years before I decided to change my name. But my name was Grav, and what ended up happening was, guys, my episodes that I would put out there, whether it was on, a team Taj, or whether I was in, or not a team Taj, but like a montage. We would do montages back then of like trick shotting and sniping and such, which I don't even know how many. I haven't actually watched one of them in a long time. I might have to like go back and look at some of those. But anyways, my particular montage names were Defying Zero Gravity. And so I loved the name Zero for a number of years, guys, but I just was named Grav. And at the end of the day, though, guys, what ended up happening was I took about a 6-month hiatus where I just really wasn't creating any content. I kind of just took a break from the community and things of that nature, trick shotting as a whole. When I came back, I decided to change my name to Zero, and I wanted to be different, so I changed the name. It wasn't, the traditional Z-E-R-O, it was Z-R-O, and I just kind of kept it ever since then, but it came from defying zero gravity, which was my montage name the montage name that I had come up with for my trick shot episodes and my sniping episodes. And so that's how I got it. And I stayed that, Zero over the years now. And it's been like that way ever since. Throughout, a couple of YouTube channels now, to now this channel, which is, of course, Zero TV. We've kind of kept that name, and that's where I got it, though, was from there. I was one name, decided to kind of rebrand myself over time, kind of like when we first started this YouTube channel. We started off as being called Zero StarCraft, where I would cast a bunch of StarCraft games, StarCraft 2, esports games and VODs, and then over time, it evolved to Zero TV when I rebranded the channel. So it's interesting how things have kind of changed over time and how we have, slowly but surely kind of, it's stayed, the same, even though it's kind of changed at times. But Zero is what I'm planning on, sticking with that name now moving forward. And that's how I got the name. But how did you guys get your name in the community or from wherever it was, guys, that you got your name, your gamer alias? How did you come up with it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and let's have a real conversation about it. It wasn't too long ago when I started a series here on the YouTube channel called 3 Games I'm Playing, and I would, of course, give you guys an updated list of those 3 games that I'm playing from month to month. And so I thought to myself, I wanted to continue that series, but I felt that a really good way to do that was actually through the 0 questions, 0 answers as one of the topics, because I get the question quite often from a lot of you guys out there asking me what games I'm playing currently. And so I wanted to go ahead and give you guys those 3 games that I'm playing this month, that being August 2020. So let's get into that, guys. So at number 1, I am playing Resident Evil 6, and this is a title, guys, that I never actually played. And the reason why I'm actually playing it right now is because after the announcement of Resident Evil Village, I wanted to go back and play Resident Evil 6. And so I've obviously played Resident Evil 7. It's one of the scariest games I have ever played, also known as Biohazard. One of the scariest games of all time, in my personal opinion. Absolutely loved it. Resident Evil 5, I played that one, and I really did enjoy it. Obviously, action more so over horror, but still really exciting. Resident Evil 6, playing that as of currently, guys, I gotta say, I really enjoy what they kind of built here with Resident Evil 6, even though I don't really like the idea that you have to play a lot of sequences over again because you're playing like 4 different storylines and each one kind of overlaps with one another. I gotta say that I love all of the different, characters and enemies that you're going up against. I think that's a really great dynamic to Resident Evil 6. Just so many different creatures. I mean, it's unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like this in a Resident Evil game to date. And I gotta say, I love that so much, that there's so many different types of, just enemies that you're going up against in Resident Evil 6. Overall, I love the concept of it. I don't like that you have to repeat things. I do kind of like the idea that things do kind of come together in one way, shape, or form. So it's definitely a game that I'm going to continue playing and trying to finish after beating all of the storylines. But it's definitely one that I am enjoying. I would certainly recommend the playthrough. It's not my favorite Resident Evil title to date, but I will say that it's definitely worth the playthrough if you like the Resident Evil games. At number 2, guys, for me, is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. So that is a game, guys, obviously, that I have been wanting to play now for quite some time. And the reason is, obviously, what kind of got me to want to play this one, similar to Resident Evil 6, was the announcement of Hellblade 2, which is supposedly going to be coming out with the launch of the Xbox Series X. And so when I saw that trailer, I thought to myself, okay, I really got to get it. I want to try this game out and see what it's all about. And so I'm certainly probably a little bit over halfway through the game at this point in time. And I gotta say, overall, I didn't like where, how the game was structured at first, because it felt like you're kind of, you have to go through a couple of these different gateways or doorways and complete various tasks, which really end up being a multitude of different puzzles in order to take on a boss. And then it ends up, after you complete each of those segments, you're able to open up the main gate to get to Helheim, is the place that you're ended up trying to get to along the journey. I didn't really like so much of all of the puzzles. Like, the puzzles were okay, but it felt like the whole game was kind of wrapped around that to an extent. After you get past those two gates, though, and you get through to go towards Helheim, then it starts getting a little bit more interesting. Still puzzles, but I felt like the game really started at that point. It felt like the two gates or doorways you go through first seem to be more of just like a tutorial, almost getting you used to it and used to the game and such, and kind of giving you a taste of what it's going to be about. And then once you get towards, take the gate to go towards Helheim, it starts to change a little bit, and it gets very interesting, psychological, without a doubt. There's a lot of really cool elements here to this game. I'm excited to to finish it, and certainly I'm hoping it really leads us really nicely into Hellblade 2. But that is the second game I'm playing right now. And then at number 3, guys, I'm also playing Control. And so Control, guys, this is a game that I love a lot of the concepts and such, but obviously, Remedy is adding, DLC and things of that nature, so I've been able to play Control overall, but I haven't been able to do all the DLC and such, so a lot of what I'm doing now is playing the game over again, but also doing, like, some of the DLC, and I gotta say, guys, if you have not played Control, I would absolutely recommend it. It's a gem of a game. It's a really great game. I love that is definitely should coexist with other games out there. And I'm certainly hoping that we get a sequel to Control, without a doubt. Without going into spoilers and things of that nature, I absolutely hope we get a sequel. I know there is some backlash on Remedy games right now with some of, like, the Ultimate Editions or whatever it is of Control at this point, but I really got to say, guys, they did something really special here with the first Control. I'm hoping we get a sequel at some point or another. But I'm just enjoying my time once again with this game. I mean, it's a lot of fun, a lot of psychological elements to it, a lot of fun action sequences. The set pieces are great. I mean, it's just it's a very different, unique type of experience, and I think that makes it really special. So those guys are the 3 games I'm playing here in August of 2020. Obviously, guys, Warzone amongst Fall Guys, and there's other games out there that, you test out or you continue playing over the months. But these are the games that I'm really focusing on from a narrative perspective. From a multiplayer perspective, obviously, Gears of War, Call of Duty, StarCraft, Fall Guys. I mean, there's a number of games that we could kind of put out there that we're playing at the same time, but these are the ones that we're really focusing on from a narrative perspective and really putting a lot of time into at this point in time. So with that, those are the 3 games I'm playing here in August of 2020. Let me know, what 3 games are you guys playing this month? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more 3 games I'm playing, content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. A question I get quite a bit, guys, because I kind of alluded to in some of my previous videos on the YouTube channel, I've alluded to this idea that I'm a big DC fan, and, obviously there's a ton of Marvel fans out there. There's a lot of DC fans out there as well. So I thought I would answer the question from my personal opinion as to where we stand at this very point in time, guys, here in 2020. The Marvel versus DC, fan wars, essentially. The wars between these two, which one's better, so on and so forth. I thought that I would break it all down for you guys here in this segment of the show. So, the question I got was, what's better and why, Marvel or DC? And so, here's what I'm going to say about it. DC, even from the standpoint, whether we're talking movies, comics, video games, whatever it is that you want to, however you want to look at it, DC is more of the mature audience, in my personal opinion, guys. It's a darker story. It's a more gritty story than that of the Marvel, comics, movies, games. It is just more, it's a darker ordeal, right? It's a darker universe, in my opinion. So more of like a mature audience, even though a lot of these are many people can play them, right? Marvel, on the other hand, is more of a kid-friendly type of universe. Whether you're talking from the movie perspectives, from the video games to even the comic books, it's just kind of a more feel-good, even though there are certainly intense moments to it. So those are the comparisons, right? Like one is Gears of War and one is Fortnite kind of thing in the video game world, right? You've got a dark, gritty story like Gears of War that's like kind of like DC. And then you got Fortnite, which is kind of for everybody, and that's more so, Marvel. So what does that mean? Well, in my opinion, I look at the comics and I don't even think it's close. I think DC has, like, the comics are absolutely incredible. The characters are just so memorable, and you really can, it feels like a lot more connections with those characters, like Batman, for example. Versus that of Marvel, I don't think the comics are as good. Now we get to the movies, and the movies are a big topic conversation. And I gotta say, guys, Marvel is winning the cinematic wars, and it's not even close at this point in time, in my personal opinion. Now, why do I say that? Well, because Marvel has done an incredible job, and whether you're a huge DC fan, a huge Marvel fan, you know this, and I know this, that Marvel has done a great job of building their universe from an inception of Iron Man to Avengers and War, and even beyond that in the future phases that they have and what they're planning. Who knows what it's going to look like down the road? But right here, right now, what they built is something unlike anything we've ever seen in cinematic history as it is. The way that they have kind of concluded one phase and then they kind of move on to the next one, it's unbelievable. They have done an incredible job over at Marvel, creating an incredible narrative. Endgame, in my opinion, became the best superhero movie ever made, in my opinion. It actually overtook The Dark Knight for me. Endgame was incredible. And so with that, I, want to kind of stress that what I believe happened here, though, with DC, and I've said this before, the DC Cinematic Universe had a head start, in my personal opinion. I thought that they were actually going to be way above and beyond what Marvel was doing. The problem was that they didn't continue what they started, what was built for them with Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. The Dark Knight trilogy, from Batman Begins to The Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises, those three games were setting up the future of the DC Cinematic Universe. They did not continue it, though. And for whatever reason, they just didn't. And I think that will go down in history as one of the reasons why Marvel really overtook DC from a cinematic perspective. So what am I getting at here, guys, is that right now, Marvel is definitely winning the cinematic war. I believe that DC is going to maybe start getting it back, maybe with the Batman, the next Suicide Squad, all these other, movies that are going to be coming out. But Marvel is still above and beyond what DC has even attempted to do. And I think that they definitely could have had something if they would have picked up right where The Dark Knight Rises left off, and then, continue, kind of built off of those, kind of like what Marvel did with Iron Man. They built off of Iron Man. And so I just think that DC was a huge missed opportunity. Marvel ran with it, and then there you have it. As far as the video games are concerned, this is a little bit closer in my opinion. I actually have DC ahead here, even though there's not like a huge sample size of like DC games and Marvel games. I've got to say, up to this point, DC has done a pretty good job when we talk about like the Batman Arkham series, and you could even go into like the Lego games and just all the different ways in which that you can connect with it. Marvel is definitely gaining, though, with the Avengers coming out, even though it's had a very much so mixed reaction to it. But even Spider-Man, Marvel's Spider-Man coming out, these are pretty good titles. And so are they starting to compete? Absolutely. I think that the playing field is getting closer and closer to being even. Marvel is definitely winning the cinematic war, and DC is definitely winning the comic book war. So all in all, who you got? Well, guys, I'm a DC fan. I love DC. I just like the characters more, in my opinion, even though I've loved Marvel characters now throughout the course of the cinematic universe. Absolutely I'm starting to really fall in love with these characters, but grew up with the comics around the DC characters and such, and so I just have more of a connection there. Everybody's different. Everyone's going to have their opinions. But I would say that Marvel, up to this point, has done a better job than DC. And that's coming from a big DC fan. They've just done a better job overall. From the video games to the movies to you could even say the comic books. They're just doing a better job all the way around. DC is trying to figure out. I think they're starting to realize what they did right, wrong, and what they can do different moving forward. So we'll see what happens. History's going to tell us, guys. And, the future is going to tell us, what happens here. DC has a number of opportunities. Even though their movies aren't as popular, they're still selling millions of tickets, guys, for these movies. And I mean, I gotta say that even though most of the movies that DC's been coming out with lately have not been very good, it is what it is. I mean, they're still selling very good. And they have a chance to, really continue their universe. Because I think people are cheering for DC to do well. Even Marvel people are cheering for DC to do well. Because if DC does well, that means that the comic book and superhero, realm of movies and games and comics continues to thrive and flourish. And so I think DC fans should want Marvel to do well. Marvel should want DC to do well. It's just back and forth, even though it's a war, technically speaking, kind of like Star Wars versus Star Trek or Call of Duty versus Battlefield or, all these different ways in which that the fans kind of create these narratives, the console wars between Xbox and PlayStation. At the end of the day, if both consoles or both titles or, both universes do well, it's helping the entire space as a whole. So we should be cheering for each other, building each other up. We should also be really, kind of voicing our opinions about it and trying to voice what we believe needs to happen into existence, trying to get DC to kind of move in a positive direction. The same thing with Marvel, how they can continue moving forward. It's an incredible thing, guys, that the superhero world from Marvel and what they've done to then, of course, video games and comics and what DC's working on doing and such. It's incredible how big this thing's gotten. I never really saw comic book heroes getting this big. And it's unbelievable how huge it is at this point. It's an amazing thing, and I can't wait to see what happens in the future. But let me know, guys, are you a Marvel or a DC fan? What do you guys think? This is one man's opinions. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more content like this, guys, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of Zero Questions, Zero Answers. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.